Well, this is a new Jetta Hybrid, and what we're planning on doing is building it up so we can set a land speed record with it, hopefully make it the world's fastest hybrid production vehicle. This should all work out real well because we've got a lot of experience and we've got a lot of passion for this thing because there's nothing better than going fast.
So we got the Jetta Hybrid maybe 2 months before Bonneville Speed Week.
Unfortunately, our original 14-week build schedule has been compressed down into 7 weeks. All we had to do is get rid of things like, food and sleeping and eating, and now we have all this extra time left.
Richard, Tom, Mike, and Scott worked like crazy to get the car done in time.
Immediately started taking the car apart. And what we're going to do is take this car all apart so that we can put in the necessary safety equipment and make the modifications necessary to build the kind of speed that we need to do.
So in order to do a land speed record, you need power. So we had to modify the Jetta's powertrain a bit. For the battery pack, Volkswagen got pretty tricky with that. Well, they actually configured the battery so that it would work kind of like nitrous. There's a little refreshing inside the internals of the engine, different stuff with the heads and pistons and whatnot that would allow for a lot more boost and upwards of close to 300 horsepower. It's already turbocharged, so we could bolt on a bigger turbo, and that's exactly what we did. So as we learned partway through the build, the car doesn't really qualify for production because it's not in production yet. That was kind of a bummer, but we decided forget it. We're still going to go to Speed Week and to see how fast it can go anyway, and then when the car is on sale and we do qualify for production, we'll come back and break the record. Bonneville Speed Week is this uniquely American tradition, and it has been for like over the past 60 years. It's just very cool. Everybody brings whatever they can out there just to see how fast it can go. Everything's there. It's the most variety you'll see at any motorsports event in the world. The terrain at Bonneville is bizarre. I mean, it could double as an alien world. The ground is just covered with salt, the stuff that you would put on your food at dinner. The look of it is just surreal. I mean, there's nothing to reference for speed. You just see this white ocean that goes out to the horizon and then just sort of blue sky crashing down into it. So safety is probably one of the biggest endeavors you can do with one of the land speed record cars. We had to pull everything out of the car. The entire interior came out stripped to the bare bones minimum. There's no sound deadening material left. There's a dash, but that's because the class says you have to have a dash still. Inside of it went this just insane roll cage. It's just like a jungle of metal, steel, and stuff linking together to make sure the car stays together in the event of a rollover.
They're very rare, but sometimes they do happen at Bonneville. The car may turn sideways and roll over, in which case you want to be safe inside.
You have to wear a 5-point harness. There's wrist restraints that keep your arms close to your body in case you fly over, turn over so your arms don't go flying all over the place. We're wearing a Hans device, a head and neck support system that restricts neck movement in the event of a crash, just so you don't get whiplash or break your neck or anything. So they want to protect you against fire.
Like the roll cage, the fire system is another piece you hope you never have to use, but it's there just in case. If you have a fire in the engine compartment, you push the fire bottle, puts the fire out, you roll in safe. Same thing for the driver compartment.
You have to wear this racing suit that's fire resistant. Well, of course, it's also heavy and thick. So you put all this on to resist fire, but it's 100 degrees outside, so you're sitting there in the car just melting. So you show up and they require you to go through a rookie driver orientation that took about, I think, like 2.5 hours or so. They walk you through all the things your car should do, all the things you should be able to do as a driver and what you can expect. So one of the first things you have to prove to the tech inspector guys is that you can get out of the car quickly in the event of a fire. They force you to suit up and everything, hop in the car, get locked in with your 5-point harness, your wrist restraints and everything, and then they tell you, okay, your car is on fire, get out. So you have to pretend, you have to hit the engine kill switch, you have to hit the fire suppression switch, and then you have to get out of the car. And that means being able to remember all the different steps. And there are a few. You have to undo your belt, you have to take off the steering wheel, you have to drop the window netting, you have to pull the door open, and getting out of the car is actually pretty difficult because the opening is much smaller because of the cage and your head is much bigger because of the Hans device. It was actually kind of comical and a whole lot of awkward. So the tech inspection, they look at the engine, they look at the transmission, they want to check everything to make sure that it conforms to class requirements and safety requirements. They take that stuff really seriously. They look at every single belt, every single harness, the padding around your helmet to make sure it all fits. We had a couple belts that were upside down, and they told us we had to fix that before we could even run. All the cars wait in a staging line, basically like you'd see at your typical drag race. But they request, actually they demand, that you're in your car and ready to go 3 back from the starting line. So the car's running, but you don't want hot air in the cabin or in the engine bay, so you have the heater on full blast in 100-degree heat in basically what amounts to a sleeping bag wrapped in a down comforter. So you're sitting in the car, sweat's just pouring off your chest, your back, your face, and you can just taste it around your lips, and it's absolutely miserable. And you're hoping that the cars in front of you just work off the line, that they don't have any trouble or any problems, just so you can get your turn to go. You want to be really gentle off the line because of the lack of grip. But because our car is a hybrid, it actually led to this really interesting scenario. So put yourself there. You have these crazy American V8 powered 250-mile-an-hour muscle cars making all kinds of noise. You have jet powered streamliners taking off. I mean, it's just deafening when some of these cars go by. But then this Jetta rolls up to the line, and we're on hybrid power. We're on the electric pack. The engine's completely off, and it's just silent. And then you roll on the throttle, and it leaves completely silently. And then until about 5, maybe 7 miles an hour, the engine comes on with this bang, and you take right off. It was a really cool experience, completely in contrast to all the other cars at the starting line. So when you're accelerating down the track, it's like nothing else. I mean, you can do 150, 185 miles an hour in asphalt, but on the salt, it's completely different. You have no reference points. There's no trees, there's nothing to gauge your speed off of. So the sensation when you're going fast is like nothing else. You have just the sound of the air rushing over the car, the exhaust at full song behind you. You're heading down this barren landscape that's just white, and these mile markers give you this crazy tunnel vision, and it feels like you're just sort of chasing something that isn't there, that's something beyond you. Going into that void is really invigorating. It's an adrenaline rush, and I think that's why people keep coming back. So anyway, we do 4 more runs throughout the day, each one getting a little bit faster. We had the engineer from Volkswagen was always upping the power a little bit. And the last run of the day, leave the line, go full throttle, first gear, second gear, no problems, all the way into 7th. And I pull 7th gear, and I just get this pop, and then the engine starts deaccelerating, and I'm thinking, I really hope this thing's not on fire right now. It wasn't, it was totally fine. Pull the parachute, pull off to the side, and get out, check everything, can't tell anything's wrong. We pull into the pits, we start it up, and the turbo's making a lot of noise. Not any mechanical noise, but a lot of whistling, and we're thinking something went wrong with the wastegate. We go back to the hotel that night, all dejected, and Michael, our trusty engineer, spent all night on the phone with Volkswagen, swapping programming here and there, and the next morning we get back and we find out it's a software glitch that was holding the wastegate open so we wouldn't be able to make power. We fixed that, and we decided to make one last run under full power. This is the stage where we kind of didn't know what was going to happen. And the car's actually making around 300 horsepower at this point, and that's pretty impressive from 1.4 liters of displacement. So the final run, get in, ready to go.
And on the short course, up next is it's the joint venture sponsored by Motor Trend, 2013 Volkswagen. This is the world's first turbo hybrid, it says. And this car, interesting story on this car. Yesterday it made 4 runs. The first 3 were 171, 176, 179 on a 167 record, all qualifying runs. Elected to skip those and keep coming back. And finally, on the last run of the day, just before closing time, went out there and had some sort of a problem and only went about 110. So back out again today to see if they can't get that qualifying run in and make it stick this time. Come back in the morning and set that record with the joint venture.
The engine's making a ton of noise behind you. You're grabbing gears. You make it to 7th and things pulling hard.
1208, the joint venture, course number 2. quarter-mile speed for joint venture number 1208, 175, mile 179.221. Mile 4 for 1208, 185, or 294.
So it was the best experience was at the end of the day when we found out that we had gone 185 miles an hour. And that was really cool because this team had come together in such a short window of time and successfully built an extremely capable hybrid car, and we were able to get 185 miles an hour. So what we're going to do next, we're going to go back when the car's in production, when we meet the production class, and we're actually going to break the record. We know we can do it, and then next year, I think we're going to aim for over 200 miles an hour with this car, which I'm looking forward to.